Hi, guys. Welcome to the How I Raise It podcast, the show where we get an inside, unfiltered look at how real entrepreneurs and VCs raise capital for their businesses. I'm your host, Nathan Beckert, and today's episode is with Danielle Patterson of the Family Office List, one of the largest and most established collections of family office data. This episode is all about family offices. We discuss how and why to research family offices, tips for contacting and connecting with family office investors, the different subtypes of this investor class, and much more. If you're tuning into this podcast to learn how to raise capital for your business, be sure to check out Foundersuite.com if you're a startup or Fundingstack.com if you're a VC or advisor. Both platforms will give you access to an awesome collection of tools for raising capital, including a massive investor database, a CRM to manage your raise, a virtual data room to run due diligence, plus pitch deck hosting, investor updates, email tools, and much more. Last but not least, if you enjoy this conversation and think someone else would too, please share it with them and hit that subscribe button to get all our latest episodes. Thank you. Now sit back and enjoy this chat with Danielle.
Welcome to How I Raised It, the podcast that goes behind the scenes with entrepreneurs who've raised capital. We uncover the tips, tricks, and techniques they use to get investors to write a check. Strap in and turn it up.
Hi, welcome to another episode of How I Raised It, produced by Foundersuite.com and Fundingstack.com. Today I have Danielle Patterson of the Family Office List coming to us from Seabrook Island, South Carolina. How's your day going?
Great. Thank you so much, Nathan, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you. Well, I'm really eager to talk about everything you're doing and family offices in general, but let's start off with the basics. What is Family Office List?
Yes. Well, I'm glad you asked. It is so much more than just a list. We've toyed around with changing the name a few times, but it did begin in 2001 as that, a list, an Excel spreadsheet, really due to the fact that there was little to no resources available on family offices. And our founder was a fund manager and worked hard to identify family offices who would help, in his capital raise, and realizing his prospecting list was a marketable tool, created Family Office List. So for years it was, sold that way as a static Excel spreadsheet. There was a system for quarterly updates. And when I joined the team 9 years ago, I really came to the table from a sales and marketing perspective and saw tremendous opportunity to just have a better delivery mechanism for this data. It was a shame that people would work off of this static model and have bounce backs. So we found a way to continuously update the data and launch a platform that really focused on kind of the integrity of the data. And in that process, we realized, why don't we take this a step further? Let's try to move away from this spray and pray model and really focus on what each of these family offices is really interested in, from the industry to the funding stage, target geography, all those good things, really focusing on the unique attributes, the interests of each family office. And so, we actually just this week launched version 2.0, which takes these concepts even farther, more insights on how to connect with, the high-level decision makers, suggestions on communication, preferences, styles, things like that. Lots of insights into the industry as well, because a fund manager I was speaking with recently used the word best. She called them nebulous. And it is. It's a very fragmented sector, even for the family offices themselves. So really trying to provide a reliable source of insights to help navigate the sector.
That's interesting. So, I usually follow up with what's the backstory, how did this come to develop? But it sounds like it was kind of...
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, did your partner end up launching and raising a fund, or did Family Office List become the business instead?
Yeah, great question. So actually, I acquired the company 9 years ago, and Douglas has gone on. He has several financial services companies. He focuses in the alternative investment space. He does a lot of advisory work for fund managers. And I've just been really driven to try to create a resource that helps not only the capital raisers, but also in return, family offices who are seeking well-aligned deal flow.
Right. Okay. Let's go into a little more of what it is. So I guess how many family offices, and is it like a subscription model, like you're subscribing to this list, or are you guys providing the services around that connection part? Or, maybe tell little more detail on
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is a subscription service, and we're really focused on continuously updating the data, of course. And every month we typically add around 50 new family offices. And the new platform is really geared towards notifying our subscribers when a well-aligned family office is added, so they kind of get that ongoing prospecting tool. And in addition, it's really about, insights, strategies. We have master classes to feature, different solutions, different partners in our ecosystem. And what's nice about that subscription model is that we can really get to know our clients' needs and help to elevate them as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. How do you keep the data updated? Because we have a database too of different types of investors, and it is a pain in the butt to keep it updated. And people are always upset when they get a bounced email or something. Like, what's your magic?
And your database is much, much larger, being that you encompass so many investor types. But that has been a challenge. When we first started, it was a very manual process, which just was not very efficient, not very scalable. So we, of course, still have a very manual process for identifying and vetting and making sure those of the families we're adding are true family offices and categorizing them, by single family, foundation, multifamily. But ensuring the data is accurate and doesn't bounce, we've just integrated different APIs. We realized, there are existing tools. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We have engineered a way where clients can give feedback. And this is actually a really fun way where they can work with our research team. It's also a fun way that we can grow the database by having clients suggest firms to add.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, we're trying to solve this ourselves. It's oh my God, especially when you add the scale of that. Okay, that's interesting. And because especially probably even more difficult for you guys because family offices are so often so secretive, unlike like a venture fund where we can go to their webpage and often get the updated information. Is that a challenge, like getting family offices to participate and give you information because they're often secretive?
Yeah, it is, but it's really interesting. I've definitely noticed a shift occurring in the sector. I don't know if it was driven by COVID, just the market trends, but I always get worried when, we do a big outreach campaign to, reach out to the families and try to obtain information on a less one-by-one basis, that will get this big kickback of, unsubscribe me, remove my information. And a lot of clients in their outreach do share that they got their information from family office lists. And what I recommend is, leverage our research team as your tool, your way of showing value. You've invested your time, your energy to care about this investor, to make sure that your values are aligned. And when you approach from that, perspective, you're kind of giving, not just taking, and you've invested your time into, thoughtful outreach. So anyhow, I've found that in my 9 years, I've had a very low number of families I've ever actually had to remove from the list. And if they ask to be removed, we do comply. In terms of reaching out and obtaining the information, it is a very time-consuming process. But the interesting trend, as I mentioned, is we have far more families actually coming to us asking to be added. And each family is completely different. But the trend that I see that I'm really encouraged by is that there seems to be a big rise in collaboration amongst family offices, as well as many kind of raising their profiles to bring light to the impact initiatives that they're doing or the philanthropy. And I'm really encouraged by that, and always trying to find solutions for greater connectivity when the families want to collaborate with one another.
That's definitely interesting. Are your customers then mostly venture funds, or do you have startups using this too, or who's the kind of ICP, as we say?
Yeah, really, really good question. So I think in the world of startups, there takes a bit more education. I think that it's not yet a known source of funding. I think it's definitely increasing, but with the world of startups, I try to be as, open about the process of building a relationship, and that it can take time to establish that trust. And, sometimes without a warm introduction, it can take longer than maybe what a startup has in terms of a runway. Fund managers are great because they typically have a process, a marketing strategy in place, a track record. We do see lots of venture, but lots of private equity as well.
Yeah.
A lot of, real estate funds. And it varies, but I would say that the fund manager kind of makes our most ideal client. But interesting observation as well. Lots of families themselves subscribing just to look for aligned families for their projects or their own funds.
Like co-investors, they have a deal and they want to bring in another family office for that deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. I want to move into like tips for raising capital from family offices. But before we get there, what else can you tell me? I guess, how many family offices do you have in the database? What are we?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, so it's arguable, that there's like 17,000 or more. I know in the last 3 years, they say that the number is, just skyrocketed. But our goal is not to have every single family office, really to provide a tool, typically for capital raisers, to connect efficiently. So we're curating the list. Those are the family offices we see actively allocating. And of course, if they ask to be taken off the list, we comply. Like I said, there's really not a high percentage of that, luckily. But we're currently, I think, globally around 4,500. We add 50 every month. And I would say half of that are located in the U.S. So we structure our data. North American is a package, international is everything but the U.S., and then global is kind of the biggest bang for your buck. It's everything we have worldwide.
Interesting. Those are the three like subscription tiers or whatever?
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Very interesting. That's a big number, 4,000. So let's go to the next topic, which is like how to raise capital from family offices, because they are kind of a funny little asset class. They're kind of secretive. They're very heterogeneous, right? I mean, every family office is kind of different, unlike venture funds, which tend to have a common pattern or, cut from similar cloth. What advice do you give? I'm an emerging fund manager. I'm raising my first fund. I'm interested. I want to reach out to family offices. I come to you. Yeah. What do you say?
Yeah. So step number one, do your research. There is no one size fits all. Really, how is this family office structured? Who is the decision maker and what role do they play in the family? Is it a family member themselves? If, your fund has very specific distinguishing features, are those values, are those industries aligned with what this family is interested in? And, at the end of the day, these families tend to be investing in things, either they're passionate about or, that obviously, that are going to help extend the wealth for the generations to come, but they're long-term investors. So really treat it like a partnership and try to approach with, this value add objective, not just I'm looking for a quick check. They bring relationships, they typically, experience. There's no real one size fits all, but a lot of times a family office can have expertise in a certain field as well, and they'll want to play an active role in the company. So again, it varies. If you're a fund manager, obviously, each approach is different. But I think starting with your research, that right there shows you're invested in the research. I think McKinsey did a report showing a study on outreach, and it was staggering just what percentage of people don't personalize or take the time to really think about that intended audience. So I always try to encourage people to be very mindful, put the research in, and then to personalize.
And we deal with it all the time too, right? Because people they'll see that we have, maybe it's a startup or we have 10,000 SaaS investors, and they say, how do I message all? I'm like, no, you can't. You have to. I say the same thing. Do the research, figure out, make sure they're actually investing in your sector, your stage, your geography. What when you're coaching a fund manager, do you give any guidance like, hey, you should really be building a target list of 50, 100, 500, or do you have any kind of color around that? How many?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I always say truly less is more. Start. And I think a multi-channel approach. I think LinkedIn is an amazing tool. I don't know if COVID, again, it's something I leverage. I'm on there every day. It's helped me expand my network and connections, my partner ecosystem. But I always encourage people to connect on LinkedIn, to first and foremost support their work if they're actively posting, and to see really what matters to them, what they're passionate about. Learn how you can be involved in support. Also, if you are supporting, then your name, your brand, your company, your fund becomes recognizable without necessarily any cold outreach. Hopefully you can establish some sort of familiarity that can then lead into a conversation. If not, at least, your brand, your fund, your name is recognizable. So when you do that outreach in a respectable, personalized way, there's already some familiarity. And hopefully, if they are active on LinkedIn, you maybe have had some communication, you can reference that in your email.
Interesting. So just to kind of summarize what you just said, like I find a family office in your database. I really like them. They seem aligned with what I'm doing. And then you suggest find the principals there, connect with them or invite them to connect on LinkedIn, maybe repost some of their stuff, show some love, add some comments. Is that kind of what you're talking about here?
Absolutely. If they're a regular poster, then they're looking for reach, they're looking for support, and that's a great way to show up for them. Also to expand your research, to see what is relevant, and to make sure that not only are they the right founder or manager for them, but vice versa. This is a truly aligned partnership, and here's why. I saw there's Sam McKenna. She's a lead sales at LinkedIn, and she has developed her own trademark, Show Me You Know Me, where you can get much greater response on your outreach when you truly personalize and show the relevancy, show that you've kind of done your research, and mention something in support of the work they've done, what they're doing. Because I think in this world, so many people forget that to approach with empathy and to put yourself in their shoes. So all those tools I found really help.
Yeah, I like that. Because we deal with this issue too, like people want to spray and pray, mass blast. Do you guys limit how many how many your customers can reach out to or download, or I don't know what the mechanism on your platform, but like, do you limit them in some way so they're not spraying?
We do. Yeah. Our terms of service, we have a certain number, that we limit. Now, I think one of the flaws in our model, we have a monthly subscription, and that is really so that we can make this affordable and accessible. I know our big competitor is charging an amount that, would be off limits to a startup fund manager or startup founder. So we have always tried to have a flexible, affordable subscription model. But a flaw was that, you could download everything, and that, then you're losing that stickiness, and you're again encouraging people to work off of something static. So I've seen with your platform, I love the CRM integration, that they can do it all from there. I think, with us, one of the changes is now only annual subscribers can download. We really want to build that relationship, help make sure the foundation and the understanding of the outreach is kind of taught before they just download and go running. So, yeah. A couple of ways through the terms. And then we publish guides to help people with strategy, offer some templates. And I think we've kind of got one that talks about the do's and don'ts if you are going to use the CRM, because if you just put the whole list in there, your CRM can flag that. And so we try to guide people on the do's and don'ts to avoid those situations.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let me go back to connecting with these family offices. So, let's take this scenario again. I'm a fund manager. I found a bunch of really interesting ones. I connect with them on LinkedIn. Show them a little love. I maybe message them a bit or add comments showing I'm, supporting what they're doing. But what other ways do I get in front of these? Because I feel like there is an issue where it's pretty hard to crack the veil, pierce the veil with family offices sometimes. How else can I get
it? It is. And not all of them are going to have this public facing presence on LinkedIn. Interesting, we track our data over the years, and there has been a huge increase. So luckily they're there, but are they active? Maybe not. So Other ways I recommend, we have a ecosystem of partners in the conference space, and all of them have a very different vibe. DC Finance has been doing conferences in the family office sector for over 20 years. And even from the food they serve and the venues they select, they're very high end, and they do come at a cost. Through our partnerships, we're always able to offer discounts on those things. But it is a great way. I mean, being in the room, the DC Finance specifically are really catered to discussing areas of interest for the families. A lot of the presenting speakers are the families themselves, talking about things that are relevant to them. Of course, the families never pay for these conferences, so they are sponsored by managers or service providers. But that's definitely a great way. We have many different, so there's DC Finance, but we've got Digital Evolution Institute that caters a lot to entrepreneurs, and they're very tech focused, so you get a lot of venture. But yeah, there's a whole variety. Javoy Productions, led by Neil Green, and I think it's fun. I've enjoyed going to the different ones, and I think there's no one size fits all for those either. I find the most value in the ones that aren't massive, because again, to make those connections, it's overwhelming when you're in a sea of hundreds of people. So I like the more intimate events.
Was that VC Finance or DC? V as in Victor?
D is in Denny. C is in Sherrod.
DC Finance is an event producer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really great one. Yeah.
And
they're global. They're everywhere.
They're global. Interesting. I'm going to Opal Family Office in Napa in a month or so. Is that a good one? Yeah.
It's a great one. Yeah. I know lots of people who will be there. They very well run. Well, I'd love to hear from you. Your thoughts. Will this be your first Opal conference?
First one, yeah. So I'll let you know. I'm
let me
excited.
know. I'd love to hear. I've heard nothing but good things about theirs, and that they have different focuses. Like impact investing specifically. And so, is the Napa a specific theme, or will this just be?
I think it's just family office event. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just excited to get away from. I shouldn't say
Who doesn't want to go to Napa?
But get away to Napa, not away from, but get to Napa. There we go. That's much.
And you're in San Francisco, so it's not far for you, but still any excuse.
Absolutely. Any other conferences people should check out that you recommend? Because I like that tip too, right? Get in the room with them and get to know them over cocktail and shrimp hors d'oeuvres or something.
Yeah. We actually, in part of this new website I was telling you that we are launching, we're going to have an events calendar where we'll share the various events that either we're participating, the master classes we're hosting, or those that we really recommend. So DC Finance, Digital Evolution Institute, Javoy Productions. There's a smaller group, Orchestrated Connecting. So yeah, those are just a few, but Opal is fantastic. There's a lot of them.
Can you spell that Chaboyd? Or what's that one?
Yes. So it's Jaboy. Jaboy.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe we'll just include a link to your calendar page. Is that open to the public, or is that behind the wall?
That's actually open to the public.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll include that in the show notes. That'd be great. What about cold email? Is there any, can I reach out to family offices using cold email, even if I've done all these steps? I saw them at a conference. Does it work?
So they're typically smaller operations. You think about venture capital firm, they've typically got the staff, the process in place. The family office, they're still very siloed, very fragmented. I know there are a lot of programs that are being formed. There used to be one at Stanford University. They're working on one right now in Chicago to help really educate professionals and help build up the infrastructure needed to support family offices. But you kind of think about it from that standpoint. They receive a lot of solicitation, and it's a necessary evil. And that's why I believe people aren't asking to be unsubscribed. It's just, how do we create more efficiency? Yeah. And so I think the more you can use that show me, you know me, relevancy, cut through the noise, personalization, and really approach with, this value add. It's not just, hey, this is all about me and what I'm asking for, but here's how we can collaborate and add value and partner together. So I think it's okay. I always say it's part art, part science. And so I do think with the right approach, but it often takes persistence as well. You don't want to be annoying, but you want to follow through. And that's where that multi-channel outreach, I think, tends to work better. You can, get the attention on one for the other. I am not a believer in cold calls. I've, studied people who say that it works and obviously try to always have an open mind and get the tips on, well, how do you get it to work? I'm just not a fan. It's my own personality, but we do have within our guide, if you must and you're going to, here's at least some, some of the do's and don'ts. And again, it's all kind of goes back to just respect and basic manners, which I think sometimes when people feel this desperation of raising capital, they sometimes forget.
Yeah, it's one of those things. You've got to be persistent. You got to be a little pushy sometimes, or maybe just let's call it persistent.
Yes, there you go.
But it's hard. What do you have a good example of maybe a client that's kind of done approach with the value add? Like I love that phrase, approach with a value add. What's an example of that, just so I can cement that concept?
Yeah. I think definitely seeing it as a partnership, not just this is what you're going to give me, but this is what I'm going to give you. Here's how together this opportunity is going to be strengthened. I think family offices want to invest in something when they understand that their capital, brings one piece to the table, but together this opportunity is that much better. They'll see the return on their investment with everything that the two entities together will do. And I think, for example, we have a client, he's raising for real estate, and it's his expertise that really is the value add for a family office that wants to, invest in real estate, but doesn't know that particular market. And it's by showing, well, together, this is where we can make your dollars go that much farther.
Yep. I like that. How about, does this change, or do you have any advice for multifamily offices? And maybe let's define single family offices versus multifamily office. And does the strategy change at all? Maybe give a quick definition, then answer that question.
Yes, definitely. So single family would really be representing the individual family's wealth. And I find it's easy to kind of research exactly what that family stands for in terms of being value aligned. It tends to be more exact. You can really research, what generation this family, what size the family is, really connect with the high level decision maker. But on the flip side, a multifamily office where it's kind of an entity, think of it almost like a wealth manager, but they are managing oftentimes much more than just the investment decisions, the, household affairs, and that by kind of pulling assets they're able to be maybe more efficient. And so fund managers or founders will sometimes see approaching them as, well, I might get more bang for my buck because they're representing several families. So there might be more of an opportunity. And I really think, again, it would just depend on the opportunity. Is it a fund? In that case, just really knowing the alignment and the size. That's, again, we're layering in more specifics in terms of what year the family office was founded, how many employees, all those things really help you strategize.
Yeah. Would it be more, I can see like with a single family office, you're doing your research, you might find they're very passionate about climate change or something, right? With a multifamily office, it might not be so specific, and maybe it's just more about kind of here's the return opportunity. Do you think more of a financial? Do you think?
I do. I think that that kind of speaks to just that research element and the value alignment. I think it's easier to get when you're going with a single family office where, a multifamily office, you might be more of here's my track record, kind of more focused on the past performance.
How does this change globally? Family offices are a fun animal, right? Because it's a successful, wealthy family. They've made money doing XYZ, oftentimes, all kinds of industrial things, real estate or construction or stuff like that. I mean, do you recommend looking outside? If I'm a US based fund manager, is it even worth it to look at, outside the US money, or should I kind of stay pretty
Right.
geographical? Yeah.
Stay in your lane. Well, I tell people again, less is more. So that's why I like that we have our subscription structured the way it is. Start with North America once you feel that that's exhausted. But I definitely wouldn't discount. I think what's nice is, and I believe your data does the same, you can always then explore the internationally based and see who has an expressed interest in the US. And I think the more you can target and zone in that way, the better off you are. Again, it's all about relevancy. What are they looking for? Is this aligned? I would recommend to someone, maybe start here. It's because you just think about the barriers when you get language and culture, and I think it's definitely achievable. You just really need to understand that culture, their values, and what they're looking for. And in the instance that they are looking to diversify and invest in the US, then perfect. It's just having that insight and then knowing exactly who to connect with and why.
Are most family offices, if I'm getting in touch with them, reaching out to them, am I dealing with a professional fund manager who's been hired by that family, or am I often dealing with the son or daughter of the patriarch or matriarch, right? I mean,
Yes. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think that it's starting to change. It's starting to professionalize, but in many instances, yes, and it can be a family member and they're excited and they're entrepreneurial, but maybe they made their wealth. Ron Diamond, I love hearing him speak, always talks about, just because you made your money in selling Beanie Babies doesn't mean you're going to be great at, real estate investments, for example. And that's where, honestly, sometimes the families will want to look to the expertise of a fund manager so they can diversify and go with the expertise in an area that maybe they aren't as well versed. And I think for that reason, I see a lot of collaborations, a lot of co-investing. The families obviously trust the expertise and the success of a family, but they understand they each have their strengths. And so a lot of times they'll collectively invest. And I think that's one way to mitigate maybe some of the due diligence and the expertise that may be lacking in those instances, like you said, that you're getting the son or the daughter versus a hired, professional. But I think the landscape is definitely changing. I think when we talk about single and multifamily offices, a big difference there as well is, it used to be, they argue you shouldn't have a family office unless you have a minimum of 100 million, just to justify the cost that it takes to properly run and actually pass the wealth successfully from generation to generation. Well, that number was 100 million for years, and now all of a sudden it's the new 100 million is apparently 250 million, and you're like, I mean, that's a big number, and I think there's no standard. You have to have this amount to call yourself a family office. So you see a lot of exited founders who decide they like the structure of a family office, but if they don't have that capital pool, I think it makes sense to join a family office or even a virtual family office and pool, the collective resources of other families.
Yeah, really interesting. Any other just insights I haven't asked about kind of what makes family offices unique? Like, just again, putting yourself in the shoes of a fund manager, ways to approach this are a little different. Quirks of family offices. What else?
Yeah. Well, I guess think of their challenges, specifically talking about that they are fragmented, that some of them don't have these professional structures. So how can you help? How can you provide any needed expertise or come up with a creative deal structure or, tax advantage? These are things they're looking to have longevity with their wealth, to thinking about the future generation. So as well, your investment opportunity, your fund, how does it create a better future for the generations to come, the children? And I think one of the biggest challenges they have is with the wealth transfer. So finding clever solutions to bring the family together and to help speak to the various generations will be increasingly important. I mean, especially in this day and age where you have, these young digital natives who have information at their fingertips and can become more savvy in investing because they can do due diligence and use these tools, where you might have a very traditional matriarch or patriarch who's always relied on a manager or a different process. And so really being able to communicate efficiently amongst the different groups and try to provide solutions for that family, thinking about those specific needs.
Interesting. Do you think family offices move slower or faster than, I don't know, venture funds or other types of LPs? Are they? Yeah, it probably varies, of course, but yeah.
Exactly. So one family office we work very closely with, I mean, you're not getting a dime unless, they've gone to dinner with your wife. They've met every family member. They've done extreme due diligence and really personally gotten to know you, where there are others that, they're small, they're nimble, they can act quickly because there isn't a whole bureaucracy of decision making that has to go on. And, they know exactly what they're looking for and they have a streamlined process. So it really varies. And that's, again, having as much insight as you can as to, the size, the scope, the past deal, structure preferences, things like that can at least help.
All right, I will let you go. One last question. Any other tips for, call it, emerging fund managers hoping to crack the family office market that we haven't covered?
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah,
we've covered a lot.
Well, and I just tell people it's never too early to start. These relationships do take time. So you start now, you plant the seed. If you're an emerging fund manager, maybe it's not fund one, but if you plant the seed and you continue to show up and communicate the value you offer, you'll gain that attraction. I always tell people, try to be the magnet, draw people to you with showing up consistently with value add, and know that it takes time, but if you plant those seeds early, they can reap rewards.
Interesting. I know this is also an impossible question. I think this is my last one, but if I was an emerging fund manager, I've got a good thesis, I've got a track record, maybe angel investing. How long should it take to kind of? Yeah.
I tell people, honestly, I sometimes question why we even have a monthly subscription. We have it so that there is flexibility and affordability to get started. But I tell people you really shouldn't expect any less than at least 6 months. I mean, this is not just a one and done. It's a process of building a relationship. Now, have deals happen faster than that, of course, but it's a process.
Yeah, very good. All right, I think we've covered a lot here. If people want to learn more, where should we point them?
Yes, familyofficelist.org. And we've got our new website and perhaps a new name coming soon. And we do masterclasses every other week, different exciting topics, just to learn about the sector and to add value.
Very cool. It's an interesting category for sure. It's exciting. It's kind of trendy and sexy right now, the family office. And it's, I would almost put like I'm seeing a lot of interest in celebrity, musician, athlete investors, and family offices. Those are the hot categories.
Yes.
Right now.
Yes. Actually, we're doing cyber technology or family office technology and cybersecurity next week as our masterclass. The following is investing for athletes, because it is it's interesting to correlate the success between athletes and once they retire. It's that, that discipline that they have and that just all of the grit that they've worked up in their personalities. And it's really neat to hear Jaboy Productions, who I mentioned. He features a lot of athletes at his family office conferences, and a lot of times they'll talk about the transition from athlete into investor and what that looks like. And it's its own masterclass. So that will be October 3rd.
Oh, that sounds really cool. That'd be an interesting topic for sure. Yeah, because athletes are, some of these guys and gals are Serena Williams, and a lot of these basketball players are making real investments in startups and some venture funds too, or opening their own venture funds, right? So that's interesting. Very cool. Well, thank you, Danielle. This is great. Lots of interesting stuff here. So maybe we'll have a part 2 of this when I think of more questions, which I'm sure I will. And
there we go.
You'll have the new name and new website.
There you go. Hopefully all new insights to share based on what we launched. So yeah, this was a real treat. Thank you, Nathan.
All right. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.